What's up everyone, Lance Hedrick here, and I think it's finally time to address the controversy. Now some of you probably know, but a few months back I made a series of videos with a lot of data, a lot of espresso shots, 2 different grinders, where I was just looking at distribution methods in espresso. And it sparked a massive discussion online with many people making all sorts of accusations towards me on brand bias and fake falsifying data and not knowing how to read data, all these different weird things. Anyway, what's interesting is someone pointed out recently that ChatGPT has a funny response when you type in the following: what is the controversy surrounding Lance Hedrick? And we let ChatGPT do its thing. Oh, here we are. Lance Hedrick, a well-known figure in the specialty coffee community, has stirred up some controversy due to, probably should have said shaken up, some controversy due to his unconventional brewing techniques. Hedrick, a YouTuber, barista, coffee professional with a deep interest in the science of coffee brewing, gained attention for innovative methods, such as shaking grounds to improve extraction. Okay, the controversy largely centers on the fact that Hedrick's methods challenge traditional brewing norms and sometimes rely on theories that haven't been fully scientifically validated. Some in the coffee community appreciate his forward-thinking approach and willingness to experiment, while others are more skeptical, questioning the effectiveness and reproducibility of his techniques. For instance, his shaking method to increase extraction and improve the flow rate in coffee preparation has been met with both interest and criticism, as it diverges from conventional wisdom on how coffee should be brewed. Additionally, Hedrick's approach to sharing coffee knowledge, often bypassing traditional academic coffee training in favor of more accessible online content, has been both praised and critiqued. Some appreciate the democratization of coffee education, while others see it as oversimplifying or misrepresenting complex coffee science. Despite the controversy, Hedrick remains a popular and influential figure in the coffee world, known for pushing boundaries of all that good stuff. All right, well that's an interesting thing to read, and it makes me think, well, if ChatGPT thinks it's a big controversy, it's probably still percolating out there. And I still hear people talk about it quite frequently. In fact, I saw on another YouTuber's channel who did something about coffee prep and how you don't need to prep your espresso puck and channeling is fake. I saw in the comments people were saying that I was some sort of, I don't know, it was almost like I was a shill to false information or something. I don't know, it was very weird. The data that I gathered and interpreted and showcased in those videos, that was never to push anyone into absorbing or utilizing those techniques. So a lot of people assumed that there was some sort of payment from the I guess unofficial winner of my testing, which was the Weber Blind Shaker, and there was not. I got my shaker with my EG1 that I paid for. That's what you get when you get an EG1. And I used it in the testing only because Dr. Samos Merke said it's all they use in their lab in their testing in Zurich, Switzerland. So I figured, we'll add that. If it's good enough for Zurich, it's good enough for the testing. So when the figures came out, I was just as shocked as everyone else. And I just presented the findings, never said you must do this for better tasting coffee. I just said, I've been incorporating this into mine since the testing. It's tasted better. Now the resulting masses that went out and bought a shaker, people want to blame that on me, saying that I get a cut. If I was getting a cut, I would have recommended a more expensive tool where I could get a bigger cut. But anyway, that's beside the point. There have been a lot of interesting responses to those videos. In fact, a lot of people have actually gone out and reproduced the testing, and with very similar results. In fact, there was one home barista out in Denmark named Kenneth who reproduced it using, I think, 8 shots each on the different techniques and had the same exact results as mine. And we'll post some graphs here, I guess, that'll help. Then, of course, you had the Crema magazine out in Germany. They did it in a much more controlled fashion than a lot of people would in their reproductions at the home level. And they actually found exactly the same thing, but they added an extra step in theirs, or an extra, I guess, variable. One of their testing markers was using the blind shaker with the auto comb combined. A big question that followed my video is, well, what if you blind shook for the benefits of it and then use the auto comb or WDT? Would that make it even better? My speculation is that it wouldn't. It would undo some of the benefits that you're getting with blind shaking, namely the dome that is being created when you dump it out. And they seem to have gotten the same results in the sense that the highest extraction of all of their methods, where they used 6 to 8 shots, I can't remember on each method. They had 2-time German barista champion Erna doing all the shots using commercial equipment. And with it, they found that the blind shaker alone was a 2% higher extraction yield than anything else. The second highest was a tie between just a leveler and blind shaker plus auto comb. And then in last place were the two WDT tools, which was the Autocomb and the Clara, some other WDT tool that they used for the experiment. They do point out that with one coffee, they were getting significantly different tastes when they shook for 20 seconds as opposed to 5 seconds. So that is interesting. And the fact that shaking shots do go faster, and I had a lot of anecdotal reactions to this statement as well, that they're faster when they're shaken. It also kind of contributes to this idea that something more is going on inside than just center mounting. So anyway, the thing that they said that I really did appreciate is, you know, with all of this, you have to go into it with your own skepticism and see what you taste, what tastes the best. The idea is not higher extraction equals better. I've never once said that. I've never preached that. That's not the case. I drink relatively low EY compared to what most people think I drink. I'm usually sitting around 20 to 21, maybe even 19 for filter coffee, and espresso greatly changes depending on the coffee.
Okay folks, time for another JLever update and a few comments on some recent Lance Hedrick videos about shaking your ground.
I know that JLever Espresso out in Australia found that shaking also had its benefits. He has a new WDT tool that he believes does add to help. I can't test that, so I can't know. It does seem that WDT does negate or does not improve more so the efficiency of extraction as the blind shaker, but what he has done in his testing does also reflect what I showed. A lot of people complain about workflow, and that's okay. You know, same thing happens when you first get into WDT. A lot of people have issues with workflow. It's once you learn how to do something and you incorporate it and actually practice it that it becomes easier. So using the shaker, I shake, shake, shake for 3 to 5 seconds. I put it down, tap, put it on top of the portafilter, done. Makes it really easy. I tap the side of the portafilter and I'm good to go. All with under, I think it's like, I posted a video on Instagram. It took me like 5 seconds or something to do the whole thing. So it's all about the workflow you're doing. People also complain that it's, you know, $80 for this. I never recommended buying it. There are a lot of ways you can shake your coffee. The big thing that I like about this, however, is that it has kind of a funneling mechanism that occurs whenever you dump the grounds out, which allow for kind of a center mound inside the portafilter. Then when you tap it, you still have a bit higher concentration in the center, which actually can reduce the effects of edge under extraction, which does occur even with perfectly distributed coffee, or what you think might be a perfectly distributed coffee. I just wanted to address kind of this idea that I'm out here pushing a certain thing to be bought, which I'm not. You do what you want to do. You want to do WDT? That's cool. You want to do, you know, the stock fleth? Okay. You're a little outdated, but that's cool too. You want to do north, south, east, west? You want to do horizontal tapping? I mean, you want to do nothing and just pop it in there and go? Great. That's awesome. I don't care. That's why I end all my videos with brew something tasty. That takes the absolute top spot with all coffee preparation. And everything that you do, brew something tasty. Now, I'm still not even arguing that this is objectively the best tasting one. I will argue, especially with all of the backed up, you know, studies on other grinders. There was this massive study that some friends of mine did where they tested over 4 different grinders, 8 shots each, using blind shaker, then blind shaker plus WDT, then blind shaker plus OCD, and there are results of that too. So there have been people who have been finding the efforts of this and the effects of this to be superior than other ways. And so they've been now testing not just whether blind shaker is better, but what is the best way to use the blind shaker. And it still seems that the most consistent way of doing it is just shaking and dumping, and anything on top of it is either going to take away from it or is going to just make things a little bit more difficult to reproduce. The only thing that is objective is on the studies that have been released, you have a higher extraction consistency and yield with blind shaker, and it's pretty much always statistically significant. The thing for me with espresso specifically is I have found that the more even or efficient the extraction is, the more tasty it tends to be. So if we have 2 coffees, same recipes, and one of them is extracting higher than the other at the same grind size, then obviously logic will tell us it is a higher efficiency of extraction. Now, that's not proven. I guess you could argue that it could be more inefficient and one part of it is extracting so much more than the rest that it's boosting the extraction, but the likelihood of that is probably low. Instead, the likelihood is it's extracting more efficiently. And I found with espresso, due to its such fine grind size, that the more even you can get that extraction, then at a given ratio, it will probably taste a little bit better. What I recommend doing is getting them all to the same extraction yield and tasting them side by side by side. With a shaker, you will be able to go coarser than you can without a shaker or with something that gives you less extraction yield. In order to match extraction with this, you have to go finer with something else. So let's say that in my tests I was getting 23% with this and 21% with WDT. To match them, I probably wouldn't go finer on the WDT to match 23. I'd probably go coarser with the shaker to match 21. My bet is, because you're going coarser, you're getting even more even extraction. The coarser you go in espresso, the more even it is, regardless of how ugly it looks. Just the pathways are more easy. It's easier for water to make it through evenly. That is a better way of doing it, as Kerma said, is matching the extractions, tasting it for yourself, and deciding what you want to do. Now, I have nothing against WDT, and in fact, I think it's very funny when I see Matt Perger walking around expos with his WDT hat. Like, I get it. He sells a WDT mechanism, and it makes sense. And I have nothing against it. In fact, I still will recommend from time to time an autocomb on bars, because sometimes baristas are so inconsistent from person to person that some sort of standard makes sense. And due to the fact the autocomb is pretty indestructible, that's a great option. There are people who I've chatted with that have implemented this into their bar flow, and they say it's been incredible. But I would imagine they're not super high volume, because I can't imagine it being very easy to shake every shot and baristas would probably hate you. Whereas 2 or 3 little turns of an autocomb, if you have it down, because it's a difficult workflow to learn, then that's a much easier thing. You do reduce the consistency in the extraction, but if you dial it in to where it's tasting good, most coffees can taste pretty good even with uneven extraction, then you're good to go. Anyway, if you watch this whole video just because you watch my videos and you're new to the channel and you have no idea what I'm talking about, the original videos are linked down below, but essentially I was just testing out different distribution methods. All that to say, I'm still curious about the densification that's going on in here, or if it's even happening according to like Dr. Mark Alchemarie and the other theories that are out and about. I don't think we truly understand all that might be going on. I do think that a big thing that's helping it is the center mounting, and I do think that there is something going on with shaking that's causing fines to go to boulders. Anyway, I hope that you brew something tasty today, whether that would be shaken or stirred. Cheers.